So we will be hearing from Supeena Insee Adler and Dr. Decha Srikongmuang. Please forgive my pronunciation. Supeena Adler is an adjunct assistant professor in the ethnomusicology department at UCLA's Herb Alpert School of Music. She is a world music instrument curator and the Music of Thailand ensemble director, a native Thai and Lao speaker and a Thai musician. She is a performer and ethnomusicologist living in San Diego, California. She performs and teaches classical and folk Thai music on traditional instruments. Her other areas of interest are mediums, healing rituals, and music in Northeast Thailand and Southern Laos, as well as Okinawa Minyo. Dr. Decha Srikongmuang is an assistant professor of Thai music at Naresuan University. Again, please forgive my likely butchering of pronunciation. And he studies Thai music theory and practice in various perspectives, music research and cross-cultural perspective, analytical studies in non-Western music, traditional Thai music preservation and transmission, Thai music theory and practice, and did I say that already? Yes. Sorry, I messed up the bio, but I was repeating it. But there we have it. So please welcome virtually Supeena Insee Adler and Decha Srikongmuang. Thank you for.
Yeah, thank you very much for having us. So before you start our pre-recorded video, so I would like to just address the special thanks to Dr. Jenny and Dr. Gregory, who actually mentioned about working together as a, crossing disciplinary. And the example that you're going to see is we working with the historical ethnomusicologists with the ethnomusicologists and field work. And then the other part is that ethnomusicologists as an advocate for the work that we do. So I hope that the video that you are going to see is echoing on those two main ideas that you just heard earlier. Thank you.
This paper is developed from archival research and contemporary applied research in Thailand and the United Kingdom. Thailand and England have had a diplomatic relationship officially since the 1825 Berne Treaty and the 1855 Boring Treaty. This treaty signed between the British Empire and the Kingdom of Siam primarily liberalized foreign trade in Siam. Later in 19th century, representatives from the Kingdom of Siam had a presence in the United Kingdom. For this presentation, we focus on Siam's earliest musical ambassador to the UK. Dr. Decha Srikongmuang has conducted archival research on this group of musicians and is currently preparing a Thai language monograph about their trip and cultural context. The primary resources from which we learned about this event are from a travel diary written by one of the 19th musicians who traveled by ship to England in 1885, as well as contemporaneous newspapers coverage, loyal letters, and orders to musicians from the Siam Palace. The purpose of this trip was to strengthen diplomatic relationships between Siam and the British Empire through cultural engagement. This vanguard effort with Siam musical ambassador happened in Siam at the very beginning of the reign of King Chulalongkorn or King Rama V, at a time when the king was only 16 years old. Much of his political direction comes from Somdet Praya Maha Sri Suriya Wong or Chuang Bun Nak, whose family had worked for previous kings and who was primarily responsible for arranging Siam's earliest musical ambassador to perform traditional music internationally. The aforementioned travel diary by one of the musicians also mentioned another advocate for this cultural effort, one of the sons of King Rama IV, Prince Panupan Wongwaradet. Ultimately, the king himself approved the trip as evident by signed royal order naming the musician to carry out the trip. These musicians were selected from the royal palaces in Siam. Most of them were at their 20th, and a few senior musicians served as their leaders. This effort in cultural diplomacy was initiated at the invitation of Queen Victoria, who invited multiple countries including Japan, China, Siam, Switzerland, America, Russia, and Austria-Hungary to present aspects of their cultural traditions, including performing arts, foodways, health technology, fashion, architecture in miniature, etc. At the International Inventions Exhibition to be held at the Royal Albert Hall, countries were able to select how they wish to represent themselves. And although we are not aware of any specific deliberations in the Siamese court, one royal letter indicated that it was first decided to present musical instrument as a handicraft unique to the kingdom, and later decided that including musicians to perform would be even better. Our best sources of evidence for daily experiences of musical ambassadors come from the travel diary, written by one of the youngest participating musicians named Nai Kram. As his personal diary, it was not meant for public consumption and includes impolitic criticism of his host country, jokes, anecdotes about English social life, as well as descriptions of events such as argument among musicians that would have been objectionable had it been read by the Thai palace. The journal begins describing extensive paperwork in preparation for the trip in 1884. The musicians began their journey in 1885, leaving from Bangkok and stopping in Singapore, Penang, Sri Lanka, passing the Suez Canal and Spain before reaching London. After a journey of almost 2 months at sea, they did not travel in luxury, but were required to help with the work on the boat. They struggled with the food availability on the boat and were only able to enjoy eating baked dry fish. Overall, it was not a pleasant trip for them, and they experienced big storms, strong winds, and high waves on the boat for extended periods. Some of the musicians were sick while on the boat, and many were constantly not feeling well. Upon arrival, the Siamese ambassador in London greeted them at the port, and then transferred them to a smaller boat with all their belongings for a river journey into London. When the 19 musicians arrived safely, the Siam ambassador ordered them to get newly fine-cut clothing as uniform, including hat, shoes. During their stay, they received a salary. And in addition to presenting at the International Inventions Exhibition, they performed at the embassy and a few other places before performing at the Royal Albert Hall 3 times a week from June until November 1885. When they had time off, they performed at other venues for extra money, including private homes and schools in England and Scotland. Sadly, one of the musicians on this trip passed away after 6 weeks in London from causes unknown. His name was Nai Sang Jin. His body was buried in 1885 in a private plot at Brompton Cemetery in London. His grave is unmarked, and to this day, his story is not widely known, even in Thailand. For the remainder of this presentation, we focus on Nai Sang Jin and the potential for his presence in London take on greater significance for contemporary Thais. I was introduced to the journey of these musicians by my colleague, Dr. Decha Srikongmuang, as I was planning to visit London in the summer of 2022. I asked him where I might visit while in London, not wanting just to go to usual tourist spots. He suggested Brompton Cemetery to look for Nai Sang Jin's grave. During my month in London, I visited the graveyards multiple times. Over the course of several visits, I discovered more about the body which had been buried there since 1885. During my first visit, I spent several hours looking around for the headstone, but could not find it. I visited the cemetery office, where the official look into the catalog and provide better direction and a GPS location. Returning to the spot, I was still unable to find any headstone for Nai Sang Jin. Using GPS on my phone, I pushed my way into a tangle of thorny vines and bushes that had overgrown many gravestones. I struggled with bare hands, trying to remove the vines one by one to read the stones. Reaching the spot identified by GPS, there still was no stone. I sent pictures to Decha while he was in Thailand, but left the cemetery with torn clothes, cut and bruises, and no clear sense of where Nai Sang Jin was buried. The International Inventions Exhibition took place at the Royal Horticultural Society and adjacent Albert Hall in South Kensington, London in 1885, and was sponsored by Queen Victoria. The exhibition featured exhibitions from aforementioned countries as well as extensive displays of contemporary products from private companies and individuals. The Siamese performed a 1-hour concert 3 times a week inside Albert Hall. They mainly play as a bipat ensemble, which is primarily court music ensemble used for ritual and theatrical music. They began each performance with the Siamese Kingdom's anthem and ended with God Save the Queen played on Thai musical instruments. The program often includes at least one high-level composition displaying the high skill level of musicians that was cultivated in royal courts. However, there is no mention of singing or repertoire with lyrics. Additional instruments were displayed and used in performance, such as the Northeast Thai bamboo mouth organ, can, which was popular in the royal courts in the 19th century, and musically represented the Lao minority population in the kingdom. Queen Victoria specifically requested the musicians to perform on this musical instrument, so the musicians played 2 songs for her. A saw sam sai, 3-stringed spike fiddles is also mentioned in the travel journal. The ensemble performed for Queen Victoria at least 2 times, and once at a private palace setting for her son, Albert Edward, Prince of Wales. I visited Albert Hall twice, one for a special tour and the second for a concert. Luckily, I had a seat next to the Queen's box. I imagined I was with the people who came to watch Thai musicians perform inside the hall. Hearing the music of the bipat ensemble, I walked inside and outside, envisioning that I was attending the International Inventions Exhibition in 1885, trying to feel historical information coming to life. Having failed during my first visit, I returned to Brompton Cemetery in London repeatedly, wondering to myself how sad it was that no one knew anything about Nai Sang Jin, lying under the ground since 1885. After submitting multiple requests to the cemetery, the staff conducted a burial search, and I paid them to clear the vegetation of the gravesite. Finally, the staff were able to pinpoint the exact location, where there were not 1, not 2, but 3 bodies buried above one another in the same plot, with Nai Sang Jin's buried deepest. It turned out to be a privately owned plot, which fee paid by the embassy. Sadly, there is presently no visible marking of his grave, no stone or any other indication of the gravesite. We have worked to uncover the story of Nai Sang Jin and the extraordinary journeys of these musicians through archival work and in situ fieldwork. Nai Sang Jin did not experience London and other places like the rest of the group did. When the 18 musicians returned to Siam after nearly a year, no one wrote about the one who passed away in London. Time passed, and although Thai musicians maintain a thorough oral history of important musicians and their lineage and contributions, their trips remained largely forgotten. Today, Thai musicians mostly are not aware of this extraordinary moment in Thai musical history or the people that carried it out. Thai communities in London are unaware of this regional history, and virtually no one knows the name Nai Sangjin, who gave his life in service of the kingdoms, never to return home. The next phase of this project is to shift from an archival and ethnographic mode to apply community engagement. How might we work to make this historical awareness part of contemporary musical awareness and activity? In London, I met with the Thai ambassador and deputy ambassador as well as monks at Wat Phutta Prateep in Wimbledon, the biggest Thai temple in London, and proposed to develop series of projects celebrating these musicians and honoring the service of Nai Sangjin. Firstly, by raising funds among the community to place a proper headstone at his gravesite. We intend to have a ceremony at the Brompton Cemetery. We hope to include Thai musicians living in London to come together to perform music, to invite a group of monks from the temple come to chant at the grave and properly send his soul to heaven, and to have the ambassador come to give a speech about the long relationship between Siam and the United Kingdom. These events might make Nai Sangjin's destination spot for visitors to London. Having located his grave, visited the site, and secured the support of the Thai embassy and community members in London to pursue this project further, I am now preparing to return to London next month and meet with the consultant at the Thai embassy in London to move this project forward. In conclusion, this project is an example of integrating methodologies from applied ethnomusicology and historical ethnomusicology, beginning historical research into contact with contemporary musical communities. Nai Sangjin has already passed and has no voice, but we are still alive. By doing this research and continue with the project, working closely with the Thai embassy, Thai community in London, I hope that Nai Sangjin's new gravestone will help build new memories to people who visit his graveyard in the future. As an ethnomusicologist and a Thai musician, I would like to pay respect to his memory by playing music at his grave, including repertoire from 1885 performances with members of the International Thai community in London. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael, for playing those videos for us.
Sorry, I was looking for how to unmute. We're back. Thank you so much for the presentation. We have time for questions.
Thank you very much. Yes.
Thank you.
This is the early stage of my work, so for new projects. So any suggestion is also welcome.
I'd actually, as I'm trying to navigate the multiple screens going on here, I just want to offer something that I've been thinking about and that I think about in hearing your presentation. I was struck by an offhand comment by the historian Saidiya Hartman. She was talking about writing her book Wayward Lives, which is about Black women in New York City between like the 1900s and 1920s, if I remember correctly. And one of the things that she said was sort of the daily practice of thinking about particular dead people was in some ways part of her method. which for me resonates so much with different understandings that I have of African traditional and Latino vernacular religiosity, right? And the ways in which sort of being with the dead is an important kind of daily practice, not only usually thought about in sort of ethical sorts of ways, but it's really striking to bring back an idea that we heard from this morning about the relationship between study and love, that it can also be a kind of way of going about the production of knowledge, a kind of ethnomethodology through being with the dead. So I just wanted to sort of comment on that and just say how compelling I find what you're talking about as an example of that. But the question I want to ask is a different one. Could you talk about your collaboration and what it means to be doing collaborative work in these types of historical projects? Thanks.
Certainly, yes. Ajahn Decha, would you like to start, or you want me to start?
You can start.
Okay.
Approach the embassy already.
Yes. I mentioned in the paper very briefly that before I had a chance to go visit the graveyard, so I talked to Ajahn Decha, Professor Decha here. So he recommended me to visit the site. And while I was there, I mean, I'm actually, I mean, I confess that I'm not actually aware of his body being buried there. You know, I'm kind of like fell into the category where many Thai musicians not knowing about, you know, his story. So after visit the graveyard the first time, and I was like using taking advantage of the technology by using my phone, FaceTime, Facebook, so it's like, hey, I'm here, so I tried to locate the stone, but I couldn't find it. Where exactly can you help me with, So I tried many times, but I couldn't find it still. And then we talked after that for couple times, a really long period of time. Each time I discussed the idea, and then later on, I went to the library in London to do some research on this related topic. And then Ajahn Decha also has some copious material related to this topic already, both in Thai and in English. So he shared those material with me, and then we kind of like talking about what's the next step we can do about this. So while I was in London, I also had a chance to meet with the ambassador there. So I was mentioned about, hey, I'm doing this. It's not yet solid, but I'm really interested in. And they addressed that they are planning to do something to honor King Rama V. And I was like, hey, let's do this. Let's do this. And I mean, the ambassador, they love this kind of project. And then they're just like, okay, let's do the travel journal with the King Rama V. And then I was talking, back and forth with Ajahn Decha very often about, okay, how can we move forward? So for my section is only when I was in London. That's the fieldwork part. So Decha providing the historical background. So, and then we came up with the idea how to talk about it, how we're going to write a paper together, how we're going to present together. That's it came about. And also, present it here. Actually, you are in the building across the street. So you go outside, you will see it. This is perfect. This is perfect. Yes. So that's from my part. So Ajahn Decha, would you like to add something?
Oh yes, please. Actually, I feel that we are so lucky to find the primary sources from English archive in British Library and Thai archive, and also the diary from one of the musicians who in the group. And so we can approach the data, and after that we try to contribute what we studied into the community. So Dr. Supeena get the idea to put in active. Yeah, we decided how we contribute this knowledge to the community.
Other questions? Yes.
one of the musicians. Give us a little bit of an insight into the kind of thing that
Sorry, Amanda, why don't you just come up and yes, it'll be
Hi,
easier.
yes.
Hello, do I remember my questions? So you you mentioned that you found a diary of one of the musicians. Could you share with us a little bit what you've found in terms of what they thought about the trip? How did they feel? That kind of thing. Thank you.
Well, the diary from Mr. Cram, who played three saw some side Thai spike fiddle, and he's very elaborate to put activity and place time.
Wow.
And it's amazing information that he normally Thai people, not the person who make a diary, just very few. And I try to match the events from different sources that talk about the same event that happened in UK, and they put some emotional and comments to an activity. And so actually I'm interested in the comment that Naikram react to the English comment when they play, when they perform Thai classical music to English audience. And I think it's the interesting point of this is how what can I say, how to present Oriental music to Western ears, and how Western ears understand Oriental music. And there's some different background to understand to each other, I think. The most important events of this historical record, maybe the performance before the Queen Victoria. And so this is not just only performance, not just only culture representation, but is the soft power that music can do something, reflect to the relationship between royal family from Thailand to UK. I think much more than just music performance.
If I can, if I may, I would like to add a little bit. So the journal, we did not actually have the hand on the original journal. So the journal later became a book. So written by, I mean, it's a collected, but didn't edit it. So basically it copied from the original book or the original diary and published as a book. So the first slide that I showed, there are two books that are already published. So they are basically just copied the diary and then presented in Thailand, but it's not widely known. It's only a small circle around the Thai society. And basically they're described, Naikram as the one who wrote it, originally wrote it, describing his experience. I mean, it's very funny, actually. It's very funny. It's a private diary. He talked in terms of like how much fun he had when he went to the Madame Rousseau, so how much time that, yeah, it explained every single part that is kind of like, wow, okay, we can feel you, we can actually walk through the journey with you. So one part he was mentioned about the long walkway through the park that he will encounter many people in England to, they're talking to each other. They have other activity together. I mean, the other activity that I'm not mentioning is here. It's kind of like derogative way to describing. So he even wrote that into the diary as well. So when we read about it, so it's echoing the daily life of these musicians when they spend almost a year in England, and then but part of Nai Sangjin, the one who passed away, is only like a one paragraph. That's it. So it's kind of like this guy just gradually disappeared and nobody talking about it anymore. So that's how we came across the diary.
Thanks. Any other questions? I'm going to make a super quick one. I'm sorry for doing this. I'm thinking about in global music history, in some of the stuff that that Martin Stokes has written, among other people, there's a discussion not only of when we talk about what is the global in global music history, it's also sort of global being produced by people from different parts of the globe. But in a certain way, he kind of alludes to the possibility that it's also something which is kind of global in the sense of not being specialized, that is to say, being public in certain types of ways, which is also something that I think, that Michel Rolfe-Trio talks about in Silencing the Past. So he's like, has this whole section about the gift shop at the Alamo and the sort of public history of the Alamo. I'm wondering how you imagine your the kind of production of scholarship, what is the moment of production for you, or what is the relationship between the different types of production that you're doing in terms of, a diplomatic, ceremony, a musical sort of, I don't want to read too much into it, but certainly a visit to the graveside. To the gravesite, writing that you were talking about, Decha. So, yeah, what's the relationship between all of these, and what does it have to do with this idea of a kind of accessible or public, or in some ways global, in a really broad sense of the term, idea of global music history?
Sure. Pide, you want to take it, or you want me to take it?
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So from my perspective, which I already started it, so I would like to see this project go as a musical event hosted by the embassy, because the embassy, the ambassador change every 2 or 4 years. But if these projects stick, they will revisit it, and they will make it as a part of their cultural event, which actually can bring Thai and non-Thai to come to the graveyard together. So this will be a really great occasion for the ambassadors, diplomats to work with people in London. So that's my goal. In terms of writing, I'm not yet into the point that I'm going to publish the book or a chapter or anything yet. So I'm still very excited about researching more about the possibility of how can this project reach, and what can we do to help to advocate this knowledge to both Thai and non-Thai. And then we see if they actually have any yearn for more information, we can actually try to help and work with more scholars to bring it in terms of publications.